They create corruption by virtue of which, everything from the Food and Drug Administration and penalties and laws. At the end of the day, all of these laws go to serve corporations and people that are already rich. And who gets harmed by them? The masses of people. Then another thing happens. These people, when they're in power, who do they put in power in their place? Or who do they get all the jobs? Their own, the connections. So the poor man who went to college and got a degree and worked hard can't find a job in Tunisia. But the guy who's the nephew of the governor who bought his degree can get the job. Right in front of his eyes. And he knows the kid from kindergarten, and he knows this guy never even came to class, and he got a degree, and he didn't even go for the interview, and he got the job. And I'm sitting here 2 years, employment free. I got no employment. Is that going to build a rage in the people? It builds a boiling point among the people. To the point where immense corruption, crime rises, a class society is built, where the haves and the have-nots start hating each other. They start hating one another. These are all the elements of a society being destroyed. When Allah decides to destroy a nation, He lets the financial elite take charge. It's pretty amazing. And then the rest just happens on its own. Everything else is domino effect. It can just take place on its own. Now let's talk about it just a little bit in the social sense. To have authority is not just to have political authority. Ta'mir, to give authority or to have authority, is not just to have political authority. There's such a thing as social and cultural authority too. Who has cultural authority? Well, for our children, for many of the youth, MTV has cultural authority. It does. For a lot of people, the sports industry, the entertainment industry, the movie industry has a level of cultural authority. The way you dress is now dictated by certain cultural authorities. And you can't dress outside of that norm because it defies that authority. We tout the West, and especially the United States, we tout it as a place of freedom. Right? Freedom of ideas, freedom of expression, you're free to do whatever you want. When I went to high school, I wasn't in any way, I don't think I was, and I'm not still, a deep thinker in any way, shape, or form. But the first thing I felt was all these people are enslaved. I wasn't even religious at the time, but I felt like people are forced to dress a certain way. They're not free. They're forced. It's like they have this authority over them that you have to belong to one of these few cultures. You have to be a goth or a hip-hop kid or a heavy metal, or you gotta be a yuppie, right? You gotta be one of those things. You can't just be yourself. You have to fit in a clan. I told you before, right? I've met youth that cry. Kid came up to me, baseball hat sideways, pants hanging down, obviously a t-shirt 5 sizes too big, looked like a thobe first, right? Comes up to me, goes in the corner and starts crying. So why are you crying? Because I don't want to dress like this. But if I don't, I get beat up. Wow. I don't want to walk like I'm physically impaired. But I have to, because if I don't, I get beat up. People make fun of me. SubhanAllah. There's a cultural dominance too. And this is not just among the youth, among the elders too. Among the elders, where are you going to hold your daughter's wedding? Oh, they held it at the country club. You're going to do it at the masjid? What are people going to say? It's ridiculous. You can't embarrass your family like that. And so, as a result, you start putting yourself in financial difficulty. Or when you can't do what the other did, people say your daughter is less worthy of getting married to. Or your son is less worthy. It creates a hatred for the upper class. It creates this friction between the classes. And by the way, when the poor try to act like the wealthy, guess what happens? They get poorer. Because they put themselves in deeper and deeper debt, and the chasm gets bigger and bigger. So, and this mentality you'll see. I used to work in a neighborhood in Queens. Very financial, like on the low end. Minimum wage back in the day was $4.25 an hour. Okay? And that's what I used to do. I used to do a paper route in the morning and work at a store. And my friends that worked in the store, non-Muslim friends, dude, guys got this 1981 hoopty. This thing. He doesn't have money to pay the rent, but he's got rims that spin on their own when the car stops. Why? Because he saw a music video in which a really wealthy moron did that, so he wants to feel like he's $1 million. Even if it's going to put him in debt. We used to get paid on Friday, on Saturday he'd be asking to borrow money. It's crazy. This is a kind of cultural enslavement. You're mentally enslaved. I have to be like this. If I don't act like this, I'm worth nothing. And it's not like they're doing it casually. They really feel compelled to do it. They really, really feel compelled to do it. And this is not just one culture. This is not just like, that was like a Puerto Rican, Dominican neighborhood that I used to work in. I learned a lot of Spanish there. But this is true in like Bangladesh, Pakistan, Afghanistan. This is true everywhere. It's true everywhere. People putting themselves in difficulty just to be like the elite. أَمَّرْنَا مُتْرَفِيهَا فَفَسَقُوا فِيهَا. Then فَحَقَّ عَلَيْهَا الْقَوْلِ. Then the word, meaning the guarantee of punishment, materializes against them. All the consequences of this corruption become reality. فَدَمَّرْنَاهَا تَدْبِيرًا. Then we crush the society completely. Then we completely annihilate that society, that nation.